Hello there and welcome to the Wall of Weird podcast. It has been 10 years to the day since the last episode of Smallville aired, which quite frankly feels like a lifetime ago. But unfortunately we're not joined by Durban tonight, but myself, Nicole and Lisa are here to bring you a little celebratory episode just to mark that occasion. And we decided what we will do is we will each give you our top 5 heroes from the show, not necessarily costumed heroes, but just, you know, good guys, good girls, whatever, and our top 5 villains. Some of us have sensible choices, some of us don't. Lisa. Right, so with that, just before we get into it, guys, I'll start with you, Nicole, because Lisa really doesn't like being put on the spot. 10 years since Smallville. Now you only got into it recently, so I guess there's not that swell of oh wow memories and stuff there. But what hits you there when we say oh yes, the last episode aired 10 years ago?
Yeah, time flies. I just can't believe that 2011 was 10 years ago. Okay.
Oh man, good grief.
Because 2000 still feels like the future to me, and I'm really aging myself, but today's my birthday and I can do that. So
happy birthday.
Yeah. Yes, it's incredible. I mean, it's a big milestone, so it's exciting that we get to come here together, and I'm glad that we started this before that milestone came about. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
But yeah.
10 years definitely is. It does feel weird. I saw a little video today on YouTube, which was like how you remember your childhood to how your childhood actually is. And there's how you remember your childhood was images from the recent Godzilla versus Kong, and then how your childhood actually was images from the original Godzilla versus Kong. It's kind of but 10 years ago does feel a lot. Like Dark Knight Rises wasn't even out yet at that point, which is staggering to me. Lisa, 10 years.
That was the year I got married in 2011, so that's.
I did too. Same year. Yeah. Lisa, 10 years. What does that mean to you?
Whoa. Yeah. I was with Smallville from day one, so yeah, 10 years. What was I doing in 2011? Changing a job, yeah.
So really, that's a 20-year journey then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like Smallville ended and then you discovered it, like some newbies. You know, some newbies that just come along.
I might be a newbie, but
yeah.
I know
she's wearing the t-shirt. She's wearing the t-shirt. So it's a 20-year journey for you, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is,
and I just hated
staggering.
the season cliffhangers. It's like and on the rewatch now, you just go straight into the next. You know, from season finale to the next opener. It's like God, you used to have to wait 3 months for this. Yeah,
20 years. That's half my life.
Yeah,
that's staggering. Right. Okay. So we'll get into it. First up, we are going to look at the heroes of the show, because everybody knows that villains are the people that are most interesting. So we'll save them till last, because I'm sure more people are intrigued to know what our favourite villains are, even though they're probably pretty obvious choices, unless you're Lisa. So we will start with heroes, and we will start with Lisa. And I've got some clips that will lead us into each of the choices. So we're going to start with Lisa's number 5, which is this one. So Lisa, why on God's green earth did you pick that one? Go.
Right. I didn't like him at first. Yeah, he's a thief, he's a liar, he's a pompous ass. You know, he's got a big ego, but you know, he has that talk. He has that talk with Clark, and you know, the suit doesn't make the hero. Hero's made in the moments by the choices it makes and the reasons that he makes them. Hero brings out the best in people, and at that clip there, you can see that you know. Blue Beetle Jamie says thank you, and he's like, oh, I've actually made a difference here, you know, and so it's his journey, as in starting off a pompous ass and then, you know, becoming a hero. And then, you know, he does go off with Blue Beetle later on, you know, in season 11. So he makes that hero's journey.
Okay, fair enough. I do need to add a proviso, actually, and I will let Lisa add one in just a moment, before people think that she's insane. So as much as I love Smallville, and I do love Smallville, I've seen the first half of this series so many times that I've lost count. Seriously lost count. I reckon it's about 20 times that I've seen the first 4 seasons. And yet, it was only today when Nicole was putting these clips together, and she was asking me, you know, which clips do you want for your choices, and you know, and it suddenly struck me that I've only seen season 10 once, which is when I never got to see it when it aired. So
I've only seen it once this week.
Right. So I've seen it. I've seen it once, and that was when I first got the DVD, and I binged watched it, and I've not seen it again since, which just blows my mind. So my memories of some of the villains from season 10 are a little bit hazy, which is why perhaps my choices might be different if I were to watch season 10 again. But yeah, just if you think I'm on a little bit of a course of the crazy pills, just bear in mind it's because I've only seen season 10 once, which also gives the game away. You're not going to see season 10 villains on my list, but there you go.
So just remember that you need to watch season 10, and everyone needs to tell him he's got to watch season 10 as soon as possible.
Yeah, I do. I need to get on that. And the proviso for Lisa, just in case you think she's a crazy person once she gets to her choices, she has decided to leave off from her top 5s Clark, Lex, and Lionel. She's not included them in her choices, not because she doesn't think they are number 1, but because she thinks they are the obvious choice for number 1. So it kind of it didn't make sense for her to put them on. So that's why. So she's not as crazy as she appears, but yeah.
Lisa wanted to add some variety.
It adds some variety.
Because everyone talks about Clark and Lex, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I love them. I love them both. Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. And on that note, let me just see who's in the chat, because we do have a few people joining us. Dale, once again. Hello, Dale. Yeah, sorry, mate. Durban couldn't join us today. He's really busy. He's got a lot on. And Mercenary X84, good to have you in the chat. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Right, let's get back to it. Next up is Nicole with her number 5 hero choice, which is displayed using this clip here. Yep, she's been smoking all kinds of crack. Nicole, take it away. Why did you choose the Mutt?
I do have a soft spot for animal heroes. Okay, so I mean, this dog risked his life to save Clark and the mean dog, by the way. So, and then became Clark's best friend and saved Clark again later on when the Phantom took over his brain. He barked, and that's the only way Clark knew that he was not in reality. So, okay. Shelby is key to Smallville. He, you know, in the darkest times that Clark had, through season 6, season 9, at the beginning of season 9, Shelby was there and kept him grounded. So Shelby deserves a spot.
Okay. Personally think you're smoking crack, but there you go. Shelby the crypto dog. Who knew? Right, my choice for number 5 is right here.
Listen, I believe in you.
Oliver Queen, what a guy! Look, I still maintain to this day that Smallville's Oliver Queen is better than Arrow, the Arrowverse Oliver Queen. I think Stephen Amell is clearly the better physical performer in the sense that he does all his own stunts. He's shows a lot more commitment to the role in that regard. He's more capable, but as an actor, with the ability to emote and that, and just the charisma, I guess I prefer the charisma of Smallville's Oliver Queen. And I like the journey he goes on. He goes through a lot of ups and downs, and he is essentially Batman. This show couldn't get Batman, so instead they brought in Oliver Queen, who's like the closest thing they could do to Batman. He kind of takes on that role that would have otherwise been taken by Batman had Batman been allowed to come onto the show, which is essentially what they did with the Arrowverse as well, because they just don't seem to let him touch Batman for these shows for whatever reason. But yeah, no, I like him. I like the rivalry that he has with Lex. Some of my favourite episodes involve that said rivalry. He goes to some dark places. Comes very close to being a villain in some respects, but ultimately sees the light. And and it's thanks to Clark. But there you go. I just like the character. He goes through a lot of ups and downs, but it's a good ride, and it's one of them where whenever he comes in to the series, because there's quite a few times where he takes long gaps away, and then when he comes back, as with Lois, he's like a breath of fresh air. He's one of those characters that when he comes back, the show feels lighter, it feels more exciting, it feels like something bigger is going to happen because he's there. So yeah, there you go. Right, so Lisa, we're back to you, and your number 4 hero choice is...
It's not your fate to die this day, Marshal.
Booyaka Shack. Go on, Dr. Fate.
Right. Yep, sorry, it's Dr. Fate, not Martian Manhunter. Yeah, I like Dr. Fate. He didn't get much airtime, but he was a hero. He saved his life, restored Martian Manhunter's powers. So that's why I like him.
His costume's quite cool as well. I think a lot of the costumes in Smallville stuff look a bit hokey these days, but back then, back when the show aired, this was new territory. This is stuff that hadn't been done before.
And it's very similar to his, the comic version as well. It's
absolutely. I think certainly in the later seasons of Smallville, like when Hawkman starts coming into it and Booster Gold and Dr. Fate, they'd moved on from the let's all do the same jacket but just a different colour kind of phase, and had started trying to go a little bit closer to the comic book kind of iterations. And again, not perfect by today's standards when you look at what they can do with like the Flash and Arrow and all that. But this is where it all started. You know, you look at stuff like with Arrowverse now, this is where it started. And I think Dr. Fate's costume there, it does hold up surprisingly well, I think. So, good luck. Right, Nicole. your number 4 choice is...
Watchtower is officially online.
Chloe.
Chloe, go for it. Why is
All right,
Chloe
well-
your number 4?
Chloe is really key to the whole series, really. I mean, she was, especially in the middle part, but even before she became Watchtower, she was key in getting Clark to where he needed to be to really start helping people, and she was there to support him. And then she becomes Watchtower and becomes a hero on her own, right? And she becomes one of them, even though she's just human. And she doesn't have any special athletic skills, really, but she uses her brain power and her other skills. And how many times does she save Clark's life? Many times. And not only that, but she sacrifices herself for Clark, for the world, over and over again, and then decides that that's how she wants to dedicate her entire life, is to build up heroes. So definitely a good hero in this show.
Yep, absolutely.
And she also gets to meet Wonder Woman and Batman as well off screen.
Yeah. So we hear.
Okay, so that brings me to my number 4 choice, which is...
Son, it's time.
Yeah, it is. It's Jonathan Kent. It's just, look, like, without Martha, without Jonathan, Clark ain't who he is. Simple as. We said before, Martha's the heart, so to speak, and Jonathan is very much, about the logical side of things, and like trying to bring reason into Clark's way of thinking and whatnot. But he's got a lot of heart as well. He's just the model father figure, but flawed, and I like heroic characters that are flawed, because we all want to be heroes, kind of thing, but we know we are flawed. So when we see someone like Jonathan Kent on a show like this, who is flawed, who does, he's got a temper, he lets that get the better of him at times, and yet there is still a nobility about him, and a moral core, a moral fibre that you can aspire to, and kind of feels like it's in reach, feels like something you can be like Jonathan Kent, because he's flawed, we're flawed, doesn't mean that we can't do good in this world. And that certainly rubs off on Clark. As I say, no Jonathan, no Clark. If we don't have Jonathan, we end up with the Clark that we get from Earth 2, and I'm sure there'll be more on that
maybe
later.
sometime in between there, depending on who picks who.
Yeah. Okay.
The two extremes.
Right, okay, so Lisa, hero number 3 is as follows.
I have something for you.
Tell us.
Yeah, so I chose Hawkman. Okay, I'm a big Michael Shanks fan, but I think Hawkman, the character, was good. I just loved the banter that it had with Oliver, pairing up best friends there. He loves his 8 tracks and his telegrams. And he kept his eye out for Lois as well when she went off to Africa. Even though Clark asked her to, but he's a good character.
Yeah.
He helped Clark become who he is too. So, and helped Lois teach him the importance of having a partner.
Yeah, and he also had belief in Clark. That what Dr. Fate says about him soaring to new heights and things, and he sacrificed himself. Looking after Lois, Icarus.
Excellent stuff. Okay, a worthy hero indeed. Mercenary X84 says, I hope at least one person has Jimmy on their list, aka Henry James Olsen. I can tell you that we have a clip which involves Jimmy. May not be what you were hoping for, but it definitely involves Jimmy. So we'll get to that at some point, I'm sure. Right. Who's up next? Nicole, it's your choice. It's your number 3, and your number 3 is...
Who are you? Haven't you read? I'm the Green Arrow.
Booyah.
Booyah. I really love his intro episode there. It's actually some of my favorite parts of Oliver is the first couple episodes we see him. I think that's where they show off his skills the most. But one thing I really appreciated about Oliver was that he decided on his own to go out and help other people. And he was a billionaire, and he could have helped in a lot of different ways. But he put his life on the line every night to go out and help people. And, he was a billionaire. He could have just gave money to charity or created a foundation and done things. But he actually put his life on the line. So that was... And not only that, but he does help Clark learn to be kind of a vigilante, right? Looking out for people, and helps him become the hero that he becomes. And he does have an interesting journey. At times, I don't always agree with Oliver. I'll say I'm more looking for characters that are more like Clark, that are a little bit more towards the light. But I'm glad that Clark was able to pull him back several times. And I appreciated his perspective, because I think a lot of people do have the kind of thoughts that Oliver had. So that was very interesting to bring to the table. But at the end of the day, he suited up and he put his life on the line. He was a real hero.
Yeah, there's a few times I think it's in season 8, where Oliver really challenges Clark to stop being a farm boy, and he draws attention to the fact that, like, dude, you got all these powers and you're baling hay. What the hell? Get off your ass and do something. So yeah, I think he definitely pushes Clark in that regard. So
yeah, definitely. It's about season 6, season 7, he does. Season 8, Clark actually starts to really become part of the team. I love that they start that in season 8, and then in season 9, when Oliver falls off the wagon, and then he starts to say the same argument to Clark. Clark's like, "What the hell? You're the one not doing anything." Whatever. Still, Oliver's great. So yeah, and Clark believed in him. So
Okay, so my number 3 is... But believe it or not, it's actually not one of my favourite episodes. And loads of people seem to love that episode. I think it's for obvious reasons. I don't know. But I do love Lois because she's another flawed character. She's very, very headstrong to her detriment at times. She's willing to just bulldoze her in there. She goes into situations like a bull in a china shop, and she always kind of thinks that she's capable in whatever situation, and it just so happens that in most situations she does turn out to be quite capable, although she does do saving quite a few times as well. that does help. That definitely helps. But ultimately the thing that makes her a true hero is the fact that she rushes headlong into those situations for other people, for the people she cares about. Once you're in her crosshairs as someone that she cares about, she's the very definition of loyal. You know, she shows that loyalty, a bit like her cousin, which I'm sure we'll touch on sometime soon. But
I love Lois.
So, yeah, Lois is great, and she's funny. And I think, you know, for the sake of Durban, who obviously isn't here, just to you know, throw a little bit of light on Lana drama, I think she is the antithesis of Lana, because whenever Clark is with Lana, he's always emo. He's always like the weight of the world is on his shoulders. Like when they're together, he rarely actually smiles. Like if you look at the history of the show, and when they're, you know, when he's around Lana, there's always something going on that's dragging down. Yeah, the moment, no, wait, hang on, let me finish. The moment Lois comes in onto the scene, even though they're jibing each other and ribbing each other a lot, it's always playful. It's just really playful banter, and you feel like if you just look at Clark's body language, he's always happier. He's always just lighter. She naturally takes that burden off him, so to speak, the weight off his shoulders. He never seems so
punch him as well, you know.
I know, and it's just like she should have a broken hand by now. But I just think she's everything that Lana isn't, and that is a damn good thing. Anyway,
I agree with a little some things. If you look at season 1 and 2, actually Clark just smiles a ton with Lana. It's when things get more drama filled because of holding back the secret and him feeling afraid that he's going to put her in danger. And then the angst of really wanting to be with her, but in this awkward situation, that's when he gets emo. But also when they're back together in the beginning of season 5, he's so happy with her.
Last for 2 episodes.
So yeah, well, until again, you know, it's the stress of the secret that always kills him with him. But Lois, on the other hand, I do agree. I mean, it brings out a totally different side of Clark, and something that I always appreciated. And she makes him feel. She just treats him like a dorky farm boy, and he likes the banter.
Okay.
It's fun.
Right.
I agree. To that.
So here we go. Lisa, your number 2 choice for heroes is as follows. Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, Martian Manhunter. So there he is, being a hero, saving Clark to the detriment of his own powers, and he still looks after people, does the whole detective thing in the Metropolis PD, even though he hasn't got any powers, and he's there to look after Clark, and always has been, you know, and a friend of Jarell's, and they used to go out, sending people to the Phantom Zone. So yeah, he's a hero for me.
Yeah,
what did he do during the first 18 years is my question.
He's in the background, you know. Clark's got to learn himself. He's just there in case, yeah.
I think one of the things that most defines him as a hero is that notion that once his powers are gone, he still has to do something that is about saving people, is about looking out for people. Because obviously anyone can be a hero when they've got the power to do it, but when that power is taken away from you, do you still choose to stay in that game? And he does. So yeah, absolutely.
Although I thought Smallville also did a good job just saying that a lot of people, we're not going to touch on. I don't think we have any meteor freaks on our list, but. What I know that it seems the meteor rock sometimes affects people. But I think it's more the fact that when someone gets power, that power is kind of infatuating and
consuming.
And the more power you have, the easier it is to abuse that power. Power is very dangerous. So anyone that can have that kind of power and use it just for good, it's really amazing. It's actually a rare thing, sadly, that it's much easier to go to the dark side with your powers than it is to go to the light.
Absolutely. I mean,
Also look in the girls' locker room.
I mean, absolutely. If you look at real world, as soon as people climb the ladder, get to the top of companies, or become politicians, this and that, it's so easy to then just serve yourself rather than the people you got into the game to serve to begin with. So yeah.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts.
Power corrupts,
I
absolutely.
was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I think that's more what happens with media freaks. I think it's 90% that, and maybe 10% of.
Yeah. Cooey. Right. Okay, so Nicole, your hero number 2 choice is.
Do it. If I could raise a son that could kill, then kill.
I love that moment with Jonathan because it shows how brave he is in a way. I think because he's standing up to Clark and he's willing to put himself on the line. And Clark would not be who he is without Jonathan. So Jonathan was his model. All right. So Jonathan taught him how to be a hero. And Jonathan was a hero in his own right. He saved he saved Whitney in episode 2. And he was encouraging Clark to go save people, even though he knew that it put him at risk for exposing his secret, which he could have said, hey, don't use your powers to save people. It's too dangerous. If his only concern was to protect Clark. And then he put himself on the line how many times to protect Clark, protect his secret, running out in a tornado. I mean, he's amazing, and he was always a great father to Clark, so he definitely deserves the number 2 spot in my mind.
And a lot more.
I love Martha too, but I just
Jonathan.
Yeah.
But Martha's great, and she's Martha for me is like she's teetering on the edge of like the top 5. She's probably like number 6 for me. It's just that I do think that on the whole, they do place more focus on Jonathan throughout the series, and like to the point where even when Jonathan leaves the series,
this show we're going all the way to the finale, Bryan. No spoiler here.
Okay, when Jonathan dies, hello, it's like. Not too long after that, Martha kind of gets phased out. It's almost like, well, if Jonathan's not there, there's no use for Martha, which is stupid for me. I think they should have bumped her up a bit more and give her more to do rather than, but whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. But I just think that they definitely focused more on Jonathan and how he relates to Clark over the course of the show than they did with Martha.
I guess I felt with Martha, the only reason why she didn't make my top 5 was not.
Sorry, Nicole, but your sound's a bit wobbly. I
do? Oh, sorry. You know what? I'm not using my mic today. Oops. Hopefully.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know why I forgot that. With Martha, she was a great support and was really important to building Clark to be where she was, but she didn't spend a lot of time helping other people as some of the other characters, where she was important mother figure, and I agree with that. But whereas Jonathan, I felt kind of more emulated the hero aspect. So
there was something you said before that made me have a train of thought while you were talking, which is about. You were talking about Jonathan not being scared in that moment, when Clark's got hold of him. But the train of thought that I had was that actually just how important it was that Jonathan was never afraid of him.
Yeah.
Because like if you watch the film Brightburn, like in that movie, the mother is very much, you know, there for the son, or tries to be all the time. But there's moments in that film where, you know, since the kid comes into their lives, the father does show signs of fear, signs of worry, that, you know, when the kid starts developing these powers, he starts to back off as a father in many ways, because he's scared of his own son. And I feel like Jonathan was never that guy. I feel like he's made the decision that this is my son, I'm going to raise him. Yes, he can probably snap me in half if he so chooses, but I'm his father, and I'm going to be a father to him, and I'm going to discipline him, and he's going to do what I say because I'm his father. And I feel like for Clark, that's very important. You can't underestimate how important that is, that actually Clark has been brought up by someone who doesn't fear him. You know, he doesn't look at his powers as something to be feared, but something to be in awe of, providing they're being used for the right reasons. I don't know, that just seems quite important to me.
I agree, that's amazing.
That distinction, yeah.
I think most people would be afraid.
Yeah. I think to not let that show would be... Because kids pick up on things. Yeah. You know, like kids really, they notice things. And they might not be able to pinpoint exactly what it is, but like sometimes if I've got something going on, my daughter might ask me, or she might say, "Daddy, what's that face?" Or, you know, whatever. And I do think that if you're scared of your own child, psychologically, what would that do to that child? You know, and I just feel like Jonathan never gave that away. If he ever was scared of him, he certainly never gave it away. And I think that has a remarkable effect on who Clark ultimately becomes, and the trust that is engendered there between the two. So, and
Martha is actually afraid for Clark getting hurt and stuff.
Yeah. Which is just, bizarre.
Clark! Oh no.
Okay, so
a mom thing.
Who was that? That was Nicole's choice, wasn't it? So, all right. So my number 2 is...
You know, in every epic tale, there's always one person who believes in the hero first. Someone who helps inspire them to greatness.
Yeah, bitches, come on. Chloe. Chloe's that character that was created for the show. She's not even in the comic books. This is a character that, let's face it, it's because of the performance of Alison Mack. You know, say what you want about her in a private life, we're not going there, but just as an actor, what she brought to the role was incredible, to the point where you fell in love with this character. You know, she was there as Basil Exposition, but the nuances that she added across the first 2 seasons really kind of forced the writers to say, you know what, we've got a goldmine here with this actor and what she can do, what she can bring to this show. And as a result of that, her character became a real centre point for Clark's life, and guiding him and keeping him in the light and keeping him out of trouble. You know, she learned his secret, and when she learned her secret, that's when she really took off as a character that I just fell in love with, because she showed true loyalty, and you know, she knew everything about Clark, but she let him tell her in his time, not her time. She never pushed it, and she was always there for him, protecting him, defending him, even to people that as a result of defending him and protecting him, she would lose those people, and it's, I just she sacrificed. That's the thing. She sacrificed so much, and I think the true measure of a hero is how much are they willing to sacrifice for others. And I think Chloe ultimately is willing to sacrifice everything for others, for the ones she cares about. If this wasn't a show about Superman, which means that there has to be an obvious choice for the number one spot, unless you're Lisa, and then Chloe would be my number one, just because of I just grew to love this character so much over the course of the show. But yeah, that was my number two.
Didn't even make Lisa's top 5.
Didn't make Lisa's top 5 because she's a crazy lady, but we love her, so it's okay. It's all good. But her number one choice, however, is...
You can't comprehend what it means to truly protect someone you love. And stay away from Clark Kent.
Yeah, so you all went for Jonathan. I chose Mum instead. Yeah, so I went for Martha. She was there working in the background for him, looking after him while she was in the Senate. She worked on the vigilante bill, getting that out. She kept her eye on Lionel back in season 2 when she was working for him. And she was, everyone, every hero loves his mum.
She brought a lot of compassion to the show, for sure. And I think that's part of a lot of Clark's compassion, which is part of what makes him a hero. So yeah, Martha.
I think whatever position you put Jonathan at, you're really putting Jonathan and Martha in that position. The two of them are so interlinked. Jonathan and Martha, they did the same job. They raised Clark. Clark is who he is because of the two of them. When Jonathan would go in a rage, maybe deal with Clark in a way that wasn't the healthiest, Martha would be there to calm him down and make him see sense and help the bond between father and son grow stronger rather than drift apart. So it really was a tag team. Without one or the other, it's just not the same. So I put Jonathan at whatever number it was I put him at. Martha's there as well. As far as I'm concerned, the two of them are side by side. So
they're amazing. Yes, they're what made Clark who he is. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, that was Lisa's number one. Nicole's number one is...
This will be a big surprise.
Big surprise right here, people. Who's that then? Who was that? I didn't recognise that one. So, Clark. Before you talk about Clark, this one's my number one.
Of course, it's saving Chloe.
Yeah. Of course it is.
I mean, I picked a clip where he's saving like the entire town and more. And Ryan picked a clip where he's saving Chloe. So you can see.
I thought you. I can't. Is that the one where just after that moment, it wasn't on the clip, but where she says, "I knew you'd come." That is that one in it, yeah. Because I was hoping that moment would be in it, because every time she's...
I only have 10 seconds.
I know. No. It should have cut a bit on the beginning. Got there. It's just, I love that moment. It's one of my favourite moments when he gets her out, and she's just overcome with such emotion, and like the words that she says, I knew you'd come. And it's the delivery again, it's Alison Mack's performance, the way she sells it, just this ultimate, absolute 100% belief in Clark. She believes in him.
This is about Clark, Brian. Over my spot.
But that's what I'm talking about. That scene so embodies why Clark is the ultimate hero of this show, because he engenders that amount of trust from people, deservedly so.
All right, the reason why I really love my clip that I chose, he just died. Okay. Comes brought back to life. He has to go, and he jumps on a nuclear missile, goes into space, which, by the way, he has no idea if he's going to survive that, okay? He takes apart that missile, all right? Then he has to go through re-entry, comes back down, boom, probably creates a crater, all right? Let's be realistic. And then what is he worried about? He's not like, yay, I just saved all these people. He's like, you shouldn't have brought me back because now someone I love is going to die. And I think that, to me, is what makes Clark so amazing, because he always is thinking about other people, not himself. And it's just, he sacrifices his love. He was willing to be alone. If it would protect other people. He just again and again he would get close to what he wanted, which a lot of the times was Lana in the beginning, right? And then what did he like? Even in season 1, he was finally on a date with Lana, and he runs off to save Chloe, and
or with Whitney's father. He finds out that Whitney's father's ill, and then decides, I can't be that guy who swoops in there when. So
it's not even just to save someone, but he takes the moral high route.
That's how.
And not only that, but he acknowledges that. I love when he acknowledges that he has thoughts that are not good. All right, like we all have, and I think that is something that we should all make sure to teach our children, because it's something that we forget, because we make the choice, right? We could be like this. Like he said, hate, one of my favorite quotes is, hate is so clean. Yeah. No, it's easy. Love is complicated. And he just makes that choice over and over again, to do the right thing, even when it's really difficult and he has to sacrifice himself. And Clark is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. Him and Flash are like neck and neck. They're really, both of them I love. I could talk about Clark all day, and that's why, Bryan, I said you are not letting me put Clark on my list. I have to talk about Clark. Because Clark, there wouldn't be no Smallville without Clark Kent.
Yeah, he's number 1 on my list as well. I didn't say you couldn't put him on because, I know. Originally I said no Clark, no Lex, no Lionel, because to me, and to Nicole, and to Lisa, and to Durbin, they're the obvious choices, let's face it. So Lisa went against that just to have a bit of variety. So fair play to her. And yeah, me and Nicole are traditionalists. We have to. This is a show about Clark Kent, damn it. Clark Kent is number 1. So screw the rest.
Heroes made in the moment by the choices he makes.
Again and again and again. Right. Okay. So with that, people, please let us know what your top 5 heroes are. Leave them down in the comments. List your top 5 heroes from the show. We want to know who they are. We are going to get on to top 5 villains in just a moment. Now, I did put a post I don't know if it's been answered much. I shall have a look now and check. But I put a post on the Smallville fans Facebook group. I put 2 posts actually. I asked for people's top 5 villains and I asked for their top 5 heroes. Now, there's been a few answers from the top 5 heroes one, so let me just have a look at this. So yeah, over on the Smallville fans Facebook group, if you're not a member of that, go over there, become a member. Smallville fans, talking Smallville non-stop all day every day, and it's great if you want to meet like-minded people. It's where I met these 2 crazy weirdos. So yeah. But Daniel Paquette, sorry if I've just butchered your name, mate. That's if you're even watching this. But Kal-El, Green Arrow, Hawkman, Supergirl and Aquaman are his top 5. Honourable mention, Chloe, because she's a badass. You're damn right she is. Okay, Tyler Warmack, Jonathan Kent, Clark Kent, Virgil Swan, Kara Kent and Lois Lane. Now I don't know if he's put them in order there. If so, that means he's put Jonathan Kent above Clark, which, hey, to each their own, whatever. So Louis Trevino, again, sorry if I'm butchering that. Clark, Chloe, I don't need to go any further. Clark and Chloe, number 1 and 2. That's all you need to know. I like this guy. Now he's also put Oliver, Lois, and Impulse. So he's got 4 of my 4. So clearly a man of sense. Oh man alive, these names are getting even more complex. Sorry about this up front, but Amjad Siddig says Clark. Early seasons Lex, yes, Lex did start out good, kind of went bad, or was he always bad? And kind of
went bad. Did you say kinda?
Kind of went bad. I say kind of went bad because I mean, did he really kind of go bad, or was he just always bad and he just hid it well? So yeah, he said Clark, early seasons Lex, Jonathan, Martha, and Lionel in some regards. Yeah, I certainly think an argument can be made for Lionel. He had a redemptive arc, I would say, but man, there was a lot of Shawshank before the redemption. So, Craig Edgar says Soups, Clark in other words, Hawkman, Martian Manhunter, Dr. Fate, short time but damn he was good, and Green Arrow. So yep, someone there that I think Lisa could relate to. Julia Hart, Clark, Lois, Oliver and Chloe. She's missing one there, but she's got the 4 that count.
Hiya, Julie.
That's your list, Bryan.
I'm sure the 5th one that is missing off her list there is Jonathan. If so, Julia, me and you can be best buds. Sonia R. Crespin, Clark, Hawkman, Green Arrow, Chloe, Dr. Fate, and Martian Man. Martian Man. Ed Marks, Jonathan Kent first again, Clark. I think there are a lot of people who do hold Jonathan Kent in such high esteem because I guess Clark just wouldn't be who he is without him. But so Jonathan Kent, Clark, Green Arrow, Hawkman, and reformed Lionel. Andrea Lopez, Clark, Lois, Oliver, Jonathan, and Martha. Yep, I can get on board with that. You need Chloe in there, but whatever.
Does anyone say Shelby?
Shelby, get over it.
Wait, I know someone that would say Shelby. Julia, wherever you are, I know that Shelby would be on your list.
No. Only as a joke. Right.
No. She loves Shelby.
Kiyomi Wisniewski. What is with these names? Seriously, it's like you're throwing these names at me just to make me sound like an idiot. Right, Clark, Chloe, Lois, Green Arrow, and Lionel. See, Clark, Chloe, Lois, and Oliver do seem to be. They seem to make it in people's lists, top 5 lists, quite a lot. Hannah Piwawaraj. No, not even going to try. Clark, Lois, Oliver, and Chloe. Again. Amanda Schofield Eckhart, Clark, Lois, Chloe, Supergirl, and Jimmy. Oh, you lose points for that one. Sorry.
I did do a lot of sacrificing.
It was going so well. And then she said Jimmy. At least he's number 5. And final one, Theodore Ray Curran III. Sounds very royal. Clark or Kal-El, Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Cyborg, and Green Arrow. I always felt like Smallville's Aquaman was a bit of a meathead and not much more, but yeah, just a great big lug, really.
Well, that guy went for all of the Justice League.
just put the whole Justice League. There you go. Right, okay. So we're moving on to villains. Just a few comments here of people that are what people are hoping to see. Captain RGD wants to see Brainiac hit our lists. And Doomsday wants to see Doomsday. Mercenary X84 said Jimmy, Tess, Chloe, Jonathan, Lois. Not in any order. That was his top 5 heroes. Okay, so
wait a minute. Where's Clark?
I know. That's a bit too much pot being smoked there, I think. Right. Okay. Let's move on. All right. Let's go down a sec. All right.
Smallville fan that doesn't put Clark in the top 5. I don't know what to say.
Shocking, isn't it? Shocking. It might just come from the Lisa train of thought, where it's so obvious that we're not going to bother mentioning that one because
Let's just say that and leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. Villains, people. I don't think you're going to find any meteor freaks on this list. Not unless Lisa's decided to go bonkers once more and take a different route. But no, I don't think you're going to see any meteor freaks on this list. Which did give us the idea, after coming up with our lists, that perhaps one day we will do like a top 10 meteor freaks video. If that's something you want to see, let us know and we'll try and cobble that together. Okay. Villains, Lisa, you're number 5. Very close to being my number 5, it's got to be said. This would be my number 6 choice, but it is.
We are going to have so much fun!
Toy Man. Okay, go.
Good choice.
Yeah, so another bit underrated, not a lot of screen time, but he was good when he was on. And there in that clip in Prophecies, kind of like got the start of the Injustice League there going, getting some villains there together, and he was kind of like made really because of Oliver Queen, getting back at him, but he loved his toys and he loved his bombs. Yeah.
Just your average toy bomber.
Maybe doesn't know how to count because that monkey certainly clapped a lot more than what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, definitely.
That bothers me so much.
Yeah, big time. You know,
Why
I
did
don't.
they change the script if they couldn't get a slower monkey? I don't get it.
Why not shoot the scene first, edit it, work out how many things it's going to do, and then just put the line of dialogue in after? Why is
Please,
it that
it's
hard?
crazy.
You know, it's like when they do countdowns on bombs and people are doing something. You see it counting down, and then they say, you know, it's got 10 seconds left, and then you start counting it in your head, and you get to 1, and then it cuts back to the bomb, and it's on 5, and you're like, bullshit, you know, rubbish, nonsense, total nonsense. But yeah, no, that's not Toy Man's.
I swear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not Toy Man's fault. That's the editors and the people who make the show. So, but yeah, yeah.
Oh God.
But for me, the reason Toy Man works so well is because of how faithful he is as a character interpretation to the comic books. I think he's one of those that this feels like the comic book character to me, very much so. And I think that I can't remember the name of the actor who plays him, but I think he does a really good job. Yeah, he does a good job there, and he is more of in this series anyway. He seems to be more of an Oliver Queen villain than a Clark villain. But you know, I won't hold that against him. So
interesting character. I did like him.
Yeah, he is good.
Honorable mention.
Yeah, the thing is, he pops up a few times. I think he pops up like three times or something like that. Yeah, 3 times, and he's one who, when he does pop up, some pretty big stuff goes down. So you know, yeah, he makes an impact. He makes an impact. So, right. So Nicole, you're number 5.
Oh yeah. Ah, Bizarro. Oh, how could I not choose Bizarro? He's Clark, but not Clark. He's very. You know, he was an interesting character. You know, because he kind of was the flip. He had Clark's memories and thoughts. What Clark's thoughts were because of his memories, and he had Clark's body. It's kind of interesting what happened with him. You know, he started because he supposedly came from some lab experiment that never had any love. But then when he got Clark's memories, he seemed to change to me from when we saw him in this introduction episode and he was sent off to the Phantom Zone, come back. You know, he saved Chloe's life and Jimmy's life. Didn't really have to do that, but he chose to do that. He seemed to come around a little bit. He was interesting. I thought I liked him, but I like villains that are not straight villains. They're kind of like a little bit of both, and are layered and interesting. So that's where I put him.
Okay, and my number 5.
Jimmy, don't!
There you go, mercenary. There's your Jimmy clip. Have it and suck it. Oh yes, I love that moment when he just KOs Jimmy.
Well, it's really. Show us your true feelings about Jimmy, Bryan.
No, I don't dislike Jimmy that much. Just a little bit. So again, like as far as Doomsday is concerned, I've said this before. I think the best iteration of Doomsday on screen, whether it be film, animation, TV, live action, whatever, is Krypton, the TV show Krypton. I think it is absolutely comic book accurate. It is spot on. But that came 10 years after, what was really the benchmark and the precedent that was set with Smallville. And back in the day, when they announced Doomsday was going to be a villain, it was kind of like, and then you saw the actor that was going to play him, and it kind of made you think, oh, okay, all right, they're really going to change Doomsday. So he's just going to be a guy, he's just going to be a man, and they're going to do something a bit different with him. And you kind of think, what's the point? Because, you know, Doomsday's such a huge villain in the comics, and you're not going to be able to get that look because of the budgetary stuff and all that. So it's just like, So I was a bit lukewarm to the idea of Doomsday being in season 8. And then the monster actually appears and wreaks havoc at this wedding.
Is he the ultimate wedding crasher, Bryan?
Yes, he is the ultimate wedding crasher. Big time. So it's just,
yeah.
But when I remember when I saw that moment, and when I saw him, and I thought, holy crap, they've gone full on Doomsday here. They've done the makeup, they've done the full bodysuit and everything, and it looked good, and it still looks pretty good. I mean, thankfully they shoot most of it in shadow. Which does make it more effective. I mean, I've seen the suit in production stills where it's just against a white background, and it's like, yeah, it's clearly a guy in a rubber suit. But, you know, this is 12 years now, 12 years ago, and like I say, they didn't do this stuff on superhero shows. Like, as far as live action superhero shows go, Smallville was it. You know, before that, you're talking 90s New Adventures of Superman, which, you know, as much as I love that show, it's hokey. It's hokey as hell. So yeah, seeing Doomsday in all his glory just come up halfway through the season, knowing that actually they're building him up here, it really it got me excited as a Superman fan, and seeing it and just, whoa, he just like took out Jimmy, and at that point I thought Jimmy might be dead. It was just, yeah, it was crazy. It was just, it made me fearful for Clark and what was going to happen. Now, they bungled the ending because the fight between, you know, that had been built up across a whole season. The fight between the two of them should have been as epic as the fight between Zod and Clark at the end of season 9. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was more of a scuffle, and that was it, which was very, very disappointing. It was very anticlimactic. Budget, yeah. But other than that, the character himself, I think bringing him in as Davis Bloom and adding a lot of backstory, you know, the way he was sent to Earth, and he's like the mirror image to Clark in many ways. I felt they did a good job of enhancing a character that, let's face it, in the comic books, he is a bit plain. He's essentially just a big monster that kills, and that's it. And he does have quite an interesting backstory when you go right back into his Kryptonian heritage. But once he hits Earth, that's it. He's a destructive force, and that's it. That's all you get. Whereas with Smallville, what they did with him, turning him into a character that at many points you could actually sympathise with, but then in the end turns out he is actually just an evil son of a bitch. You know, and he makes the choice to kill Jimmy, not because he's the monster anymore, but because actually that's just who he is. He was all about getting Chloe, and you know, turns out when he can't get Chloe, he shows his true colours. But yeah, so I thought they did a really good job with Doomsday. The fight scene at the end could have just been a lot better. But
it was quite a turn with Davis, though. I mean, he started off as an ambulance driver paramedic who went out and saved people's lives. But and then he did this. Then he kills Jimmy. But I think that my thinking is that it was because he had to murder people to not murder more people. And I think that when you cross that line, it starts to erode your soul and your character. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I think you see that across the season. I think you see because he has to make compromises, and then once he's made those compromises, you can't go back, and then you start to justify further compromises because of that. So,
and that's why crossing the line, people, is any line are dangerous.
It's a slippery slope, peeps. It's a slippery slope. If Smallville's taught me anything, it's that. Okay. Mercenary. Yeah, Krypton has the best Doomsday. It certainly does. Anyone who's not watched Krypton, get on that, because the Doomsday in that show is just off the hook. Yo. Word. Right, I'm down with the kids. Okay. Who are we on now? Okay,
Number
right.
4.
So, number 4. So, it turns out that Nicole and Lisa both have the same number 4, which is this guy right here.
It's this alternate Earth. It's a blast. Doesn't feel right, though. Not having blood on my hands before lunch.
Duke it out. Go on.
Go ahead,
Go.
Lisa, if you could start.
Oh, well, you know, even though he's bad, he's still hot.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, Clark Luther. Right. So, complete opposite of Clark. And that's all to do with his upbringing. And that just goes to show it's down to the Kents. And then it's down to, you know, Earth 2 Lionel as well that makes the man. Yeah.
Well, he was chilling though. I think he was one of the, might have been the most chilling character. That and the character Dean Cain played. Those, I felt like this villain, it was scary. I mean, he was scary.
I can't even watch it sometimes because it just gives me creeps so much. Yeah.
Oh man, that dinner with Tess. I mean, it's just intense, you know. And you don't know what he's gonna do. And it just again shows you how amazing Clark is when you see someone like Clark Luthor. But yeah, I had to really appreciate this character just because of Tom Welling just played it really well. That villain.
Yeah. When he's got Tess, you know, and at hold of a neck, you know.
Oh my god!
It's like. Run,
but there is this moment at the end of his second episode, which Bryan, whenever you watch season 10 again, maybe you can start to appreciate him a little bit more. But when he brings him to the fortress, and you think, you know, maybe there is, you know, some of Clark's nature in there, maybe he can start to go to some kind of redemption. I mean, at least Jor-El could freeze him for like 100 years, and where everyone that's alive now could be dead, and maybe he has a second chance at redemption, because he still is Clark under there. Why he was named Clark, we'll just leave off. But anyway.
Destiny.
Why would Lionel name him Clark? I don't know. But amazing character. And we got to see double the Tom Welling, so we enjoyed it.
Which can only be good. Which one are you having?
Okay, go and thirst in your own time, people.
You know, I could have just had Clark all over. I could have had a lot more Clarks on my list, so I can appreciate that I didn't put more.
Mercenary X84 says Clark Luthor is better Dark Clark than Bizarro.
Yeah, he was darker than Bizarro.
Yeah, I see. I feel like I would probably have him in my list. It literally does boil down to the fact that I've only seen season 10 once, and I honestly can't remember much of it. So yeah, I do need to get on that. But speaking of Bizarro, my number 4 choice. Yeah, I just again, I'm I'm a fan of the character from the comic books and from the animated series from the 90s, and just when, as Smallville went on, like in the later seasons, they started bringing more and more of the actual comic book characters in, the bigger villains, this, that, and the other. They started to get a bit more license. Warner Brothers were being a bit freer with who they were allowing and stuff. So again, it was one of those great moments where when he introduces himself, I'm you, but just a bit more bizarre. Oh, a bit more. It's Bizarro. That's Bizarro. It's like, and then he flies off in that scene we just saw, and his face suddenly turns, and you're like, oh, they're actually going there. They're not just gonna have him look like Clark. They're actually gonna do the whole, his face goes a bit wonky kind of thing. It was quite an exciting moment, and again, he's a formidable villain because he is Clark. He's got all Clark's powers, so it's like you can't get a tougher villain than someone who's the exact mirror image of Clark, can you? When you're fighting yourself, they know all of your moves, they have all your powers, and memories. So it's and I like the journey he goes on as well. He's not in that many episodes. He's only in a few, but I think he makes an impact, and he does some damage, not just physically but psychologically. You look at what he does to Clark and Lana. When he hops into bed with Lana, it's like, oh crap. it's just oops. Lana really fouls up on that one. You can understand it. You can understand why she ends up going there, but like when you see what it does to Clark, not surprisingly, it's like there's no coming back from that. How do so he does some damage, and there's a redemptive quality to this character in his final moments. Which is like, all the best villains are never truly right down the line, just pure evil villains, and it's just like, so there was a bit of hope for this guy, but alas, 'tis not to be, because he cops it. But yeah, it's
add to the count of Lana kills.
Yeah.
Another one.
Oh man. It's a good character. Again, I like that they take someone from the comic books, do a good job of interpreting them. They change them. They don't do them completely the same as the comic book, but they are recognizable as the character, from the comic books. So, good job. Right, moving on to number 3.
One of my favorite quotes with Bizarro. The Bizarro storyline was when Clark said he looked into his eyes and he saw the monster that he could become. Love that.
Wait till season 10, Clark.
Yeah, wait till Clark Luther is even worse.
Yeah. Bizarro's going to look like a saint by the time you get to season 10. Okay, so Lisa, your number 3 is...
I sometimes shudder to think what would have happened to my little traveler if he had been discovered in that cornfield by the first ignorant farmer that came along.
Who is it?
It's Earth 2 Lionel. Yeah. So again, just goes to show what would happen to Clark if he was brought up by the Luthers and he didn't have, Martha and Jonathan to look out for him.
Apparently it corrupted Lionel more too.
Yeah, well, I mean, whoa, what an evil dude.
It would though, wouldn't it? It would, because he's got this power. He's got this powerful being that he can control, or he thinks he can control. So that's so going to go to his head. He's like, I can do whatever the heck I want now because I've got the ultimate bodyguard in my employ. So, and makes sense.
And losing the, realizing that Lex he lost Lex, and Lex was the only one that actually really loved him. There with the King Lear quote from Lionel. So yeah,
It's great stuff.
badass.
Yeah.
My son, my son.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Which brings us to Nicole. Your number 3 choice is.
What's the prayer for dismembering a body?
Boom.
Oh, Tess. She was interesting. I actually took to her pretty much right away in season 8. I said she had that layered feeling that Lex had. He wasn't quite as evil as Lex became. But she definitely had some dark side, especially when she went and decided to join forces with Zod. Especially in the future there. And I love that she came around and had a redemption. And she was just a very interesting, layered character, interesting perspective. Again, where she wanted to save the world and thought that, and sadly, there are people that think this way in the world, that, that the ends justify the means. So they're okay with people being hurt, and if it can get the people to be more towards their vision of what they think a better planet would be. So I think that Tess touched upon that very real part of being some humans are. She constantly, again, like Lex, kind of kept you guessing. So yeah, I love Tess.
Yeah, and I think Granny Goodness sums it up as well, in the finale about, she was always wanting to try so hard to go towards the light, even though she was brought up, she was in the Luther family.
Granny Goodness was creepy.
That's she's an X-Files actress. If you think she's creepy in Smallville, you should see how flipping creepy she is in X-Files season 1. Tell ya. Okay. Tess. Oh man, it was such a tricky one for me, was Tess, because I actually really love the character of Tess. I think the actress whose name escapes me right now, go on Lisa, who is it? Cassidy Freeman. She had, of anyone on this show, she had the most impossible, unenviable task of any character coming in. If you come in as a supporting character, you have time to find your feet, you can have time to let people warm up to you and whatnot. Tess is essentially the replacement for Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor.
And really Lionel too. I mean, she almost...
She had to do both in one. We lost Lionel and Lex at the end of season 7, and then we get told this woman, Cassidy Freeman's coming in to play the new, she's going to take the place of, and everyone's like,
a lot of people don't even give character a chance. They just say,
they don't. They don't.
And
so she had the most unenviable task. It's got to be said. But right off the bat, like literally episode 1, I was like, actually, this woman's got something. I'm willing to go along and see where she goes. By episode 3 or 4 of season 8, I was in. I was like, I like this woman. I like this character. She's doing a bang up job. I'm there. Would I rather have Rosenbaum's Lex? Of course I would. But if we can't have him, she's definitely the next best thing. I think she does a really good job. She would be in my top 5 of either heroes and villains. My problem, and the reason she doesn't appear, is because she straddles that line so dead center that I just found it impossible to decide what she was. Like, ultimately she becomes a hero, in the end, her final acts, she's redeemed. But until that moment, it could go either way, and it's just like
She killed a few people though, Ryan.
She did. So that's what I mean. It was really hard to like. Some people would say this.
She killed the Suicide Squad. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just found it hard. I think again that's down to Cassidy Freeman's portrayal as well. Even when she's doing nasty things, the way she performs it, she has this knack for making you feel like for whatever reason she's working in Clark's best interest. Whereas
she just actually blames, not blame. She claims that Martha showed her the way. The Red Queen showed me the way at the end of the,
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So what I was going to say is that some people would say the same about Lionel, and my argument would be that with Lionel, he was the Smallville villain for the longest time, for at least 3-4 seasons, and then even when he went over to the light side, he was still it was always like, is he really, or is he playing? He always felt like he was making the play, and even like when he forced Lana to still go into the marriage with Lex, he was supposedly on the light side then, but it's like, would you do that really if you were working for the light? I don't think so. So for me, Lionel for the longest time was always a clear villain, whereas with Tess, I flip-flop with her so much that that's why I left her out of my top 5s. But just for I say that just because anyone who watches this, if you're wondering why didn't Tess get picked, that's why. Otherwise, she would be in my top 5 heroes and my top 5 villains. So yeah, because I do love the character. There you go.
It's like kind of Martha and Lois to me were really on the edge.
Yeah. So close. Okay. All right. So who are we on? We're on me. My number 3. Brainiac. Now, once again, if you want to go and see Krypton, I do think Krypton gives certainly the most comic book accurate depiction of Brainiac, possibly my favourite, but it's very hard to say for sure whether the Krypton version would be my favourite, because despite the fact that the Smallville iteration doesn't really resemble the comic book iteration all that much, they've done a lot of changes. He's kind of a very different beast. James Masters sells the crap out of this character. Without James Masters in this role, it wouldn't be what he is. The nuances he adds to this character, where the manipulations that he pulls off with Clark, and he's a chess player. He's a master chess player. He's always moving 3 steps ahead while you're still kind of figuring out what to do with your pawns, and his plans are always revealed much further down the line as he starts kind of moving the pieces into play, and I think that Masters sells that intellect, because ultimately that's what Brainiac is. He is the ultimate intellect. He's about knowledge. He's a knowledge gatherer, certainly in the comic books. Yeah, in the comic books he goes from world to world, consuming all the world's knowledge before destroying the world, and he feels like that character in many ways here, in that he's just pure intellect. He's always 5 steps ahead, because that's just what he is. He's a computer. He's a thought processing machine, and he has one goal, and that goal is always to get Zod out of the Phantom Zone, to bring Zod into this world. He's a man with singular vision, and it's presented really well thanks to the actor portraying him. So
he just keeps coming back.
Yeah.
just can't seem to kill that kid. That guy. That guy. Oh god.
Okay.
When you think he's gone, he destroys your life again.
So that was my number 3. What's Lisa's number 3? Or number 2. Number 2.
Yeah,
What's your number 2? Is it Brainiac as well? Or Lana?
Yeah, no.
Whoa.
No, it's Brainiac. Again, I just love James Masters, everything that he does. Just all the subplots that he had doing. He ended up killing Daxor, but he lined up Clark to sort of like go find him, by pretending to be Lionel. He would try to get Clark to kill Lionel. And he made Martha ill as well. That's not good. So yeah, I just love Brainiac.
I love when he played between Bizarro and Clark. That was really fun.
Yeah,
it's sometimes
find you.
It's sometimes quite hard to actually keep up with a lot of his machinations. Like he's playing so many people all the time that sometimes you go, hang on a minute, back up. What's he doing again?
Going back to Krypton in 1989 or whenever it was.
Yeah. So there's the episode Splinter. When I first watched the episode Splinter, I wasn't that keen. I thought, it's a bit crap. There's a lot of contrivances in it. But it's only on rewatch. Once you figure out like where it's going, that actually it's not contrivance. It's just that this guy is a bloody smart cookie, and he's lined things up in such a way. Again, it's that chess player. He's lined them up in such a way that it looks like contrivance when you first watch. But when you go back and see how he's been working his way up to stuff, you realise actually no, he's perfectly plotted a plan and seen it through. So yeah, Splinter's a very good episode.
And collecting all the viruses as well, and getting using Lex to do that as well.
He's planted seeds really well too in people.
Yeah.
Which I love the way he tries to figure out how humans think.
Yeah.
And I love when he talks about history and all that as well. It's very
if he was a human character, then it'd be hard to swallow all this planning. It's like, no, you can't. But because he is a computer, because he is, he's a machine who can process however many calculations within a nanosecond. It's not it's not unbelievable that he would have this level of skill at planning and manipulating people. So, he's a great character, really good character, cracking villain. Right, Nicole, you're number 2. Chloe's dad.
Are you really surprised that I would pick Lionel?
Nope.
I mean, wow, what? I love this character so much. Such an interesting. I love smart villains, and that's why I love Lionel and Lex so much, and Brainiac. That's another really good choice. But yeah, they're very smart, and you're constantly wondering, what is he thinking? What does he know? I love that he keeps you guessing, and that he's so layered, and what plans is he making? And and the way he talks to characters to, again, plant seeds and lead people, like he's brilliant at it. Like, you could learn from this character, and to use it for good things instead of bad things, but to kind of learn how to get people to think, and to get to certain conclusions. Because if you just tell people things, then they just shut down. But he's really good at just giving them enough to make them think. And then that moment there that's like the most villain moment, I think, of the show with Lionel. I mean, he tries to kill Chloe and Lex. I mean, while he's in jail. Let's get rid of So,
and Chloe's dad. Let's not forget.
Right, Chloe's dad, which we never see after that episode, by the way. So
I'm assuming he was killed in that explosion.
I don't know. You think that they would have mentioned it because we went into this big thing about Whitney's father, but Chloe's dad we just completely forget about. But yeah, and then I love that you constantly are guessing: is he good? Is he bad? Is he plotting for evil right now? Or that's so interesting. Instead of just having I love a character like Clark Luthor, where he's evil and creepy, but I couldn't do him for a whole season, or for multiple series. Like, it wouldn't really be interesting. But this character, you just enjoy watching him over and over. And then, how he grooms Lex to be who he is. I mean, if Jonathan and Martha created Clark, Lionel created Lex. And as much as you can say how Lex is evil and he is a brilliant character. As good as Clark is, he is bad, and it takes skill to be there. It's not like you look at these meteor freaks who are just kind of crazy, they kill people, but this character, to be able to compete with someone like Superman, you need to be amazing. And Lionel was pretty amazing. And then to go, unfortunately, most of the time he was for the dark, but then he started to redeem himself. It was very interesting during season 4 when, boom, Clark took him over and kind of changed his soul, and for a while he was good, and then he went kind of bad, and he was taken over by Jor-El. Great character. Just loved it.
Okay, my number 2.
I was raised in your shadow. Now you're gonna die in mine.
It's not Lex Luthor. it's actually Lionel. I know Lionel didn't talk in that clip, but yeah, Lionel. Basically everything that Nicole just said, but 2 words: John Glover. Just
nails it.
Dude is just like, yeah. It's so rare that an actor so nails a role or embodies. He's one of those characters that was never intended to last as long as he did. He was only meant to dip in and out of the first season just to kickstart Lex. But the chemistry between Rosenbaum and Glover was so spot on, and the dynamic between them as father and son just lit scenes up, blew scenes up whenever they were together. That the writers just, again, a bit like with Chloe, they realised what they had, and it became one of the backbones of the show. Whenever, we've all said it before when we're reviewing the episodes. Any scene that has both Lex and Lionel in it together talking, usually about Alexander the Great or some other historical figure that went to war, it's just dynamite. It's like it's ripe for quotation. It's like there's so many lines between the two of these characters when they're throwing at each other that it's just totally quotable. And as evil as Lionel can be, whether it's killing his own parents, whether it's blackmailing Jonathan, whether it's screwing over a whole town, all these things that it just never seems to stop. The complete mistreatment of his own son, his own flesh and blood, which in an instant, in one line, is just humanized, not justified, but humanized when he finds out that it wasn't Lex who killed his brother, that it was actually Lex's mum, Lionel's wife. And there's this moment where he says, if I'd have known, Lex, if I'd have known, and by that point you can see it's gone. It's too late. It's too late. You've cocked it up. You've twisted Lex so much over the years. That's it. He's already on course to become the man he's going to become. And it's like, even further down the line, there's a realization with Lionel that he's screwed up with his son, and he starts trying to go the other way. But it's too late. The damage is already done. So there's all these different ways they find to humanize him, and the way that he sees in Clark the chance to kind of do things a bit differently, and kind of almost treats Clark like a surrogate son, which gets a bit creepy at times. But it's just, he's such a complex character. He does the most despicable, evil things, and yet can bring us to a place where we sympathise with him, or where we relate to him in some way. Or it's just, they are the best characters. They are, you can, out and out villains. Like you said, Nicole, they're great for an episode or two. They don't carry a season. They certainly don't carry a series. Lionel and Lex, they carry the series a lot of the time. It's just, incredible character, really is. But, right, number one choices.
Now Lisa excluded Lex and Lionel, so
yes. Lisa excluded Lex and Lionel, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that her number one choice is.
Unlike you, I will lead from a throne, not from the shadows. Every human, including the woman you love, will kneel before Zod.
He almost hit my top 5, Bryan, so
right. It's the
it was between him and Bizarro.
It's the character of Zod that I like. Yeah? Not Callum Blue's portrayal of Zod.
I like Callum Blue.
I know.
Yeah, so I like Zod in all these incarnations, whether he be the Major, whether he be the General, whether it be the Major General mix up, to do with the Zona, or, Lex's portrayal of Zod. Yeah, it's just,
Kneel before Zod, Bryan, right now.
Yeah.
I preferred Lex Zod than Callum Blue Zod. Lex Zod was better.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. He was a little bit too stoic for me.
As written, just purely off dialogue, character motivations, all that kind of stuff, I think he's a great character. But if you're going to have such a great character, such an iconic figure within the lore of Superman, for the love of God, why would you not get a better actor? I know some people are probably screaming at me now saying, what are you talking about? Callum Blue was awesome. And I just don't think he was. I can't.
But I think you have preconceived notions of who Zod was because of previous incarnations in the comics.
No, I don't. I don't, because actually I've never read a comic book with Zod in. All of my knowledge about Zod comes from movies. So Terence Stamp being the obvious one, and I think it was Terence Stamp that they are trying to ape here by casting a British actor. Unfortunately, they've cast budget David Tennant. And it's just it's the way the guy pronounces everything. He's so forceful with his facial mannerisms, like he spits every word at Clark, no matter what he's saying, and I'm just like, dude, just no, I can't get my head around it. As a character, I think he's well written. The performance, I was just never on board. It always let it down for me. But that's just me.
I didn't like him the first time I watched season 9, but when you've watched season 9 as much as I have, then yeah.
So you just need to watch it more, Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And him impersonating the Blur, come on, at least Lois didn't fall for it.
It's on the phone,
probably would have,
which was a little weird.
Yeah. But
Right. Okay. I'm going to play 2 clips now. These 2 clips embody both mine and Nicole's number 1, which, let's face it, is also really Lisa's number 1. It's everybody's number 1, because unless you're an insane crazy person, who else would it be?
I am the villain of the story.
You know, everyone wanted to see that clip, so here you go.
We have a destiny together, Clark. Only on different sides.
Yeah. Booyah. Just like that. I love Michael Rosenbaum, right? I just the dude's hilarious. When you know, if anyone who watches his podcast on YouTube or listens to it, I has seen anything else he's done that isn't Smallville. This guy is clearly a comedian. You know, he doesn't take things that seriously. He's a practical joker, and that shines through in most of the things he does. And then he comes to this role as Lex Luthor. I'd never heard of the guy before, never heard of Rosenbaum until I first started watching Smallville. And he so embodies this character. And as with John Glover, he's so good at nuance, at looks. You know, like just whether it's the slight tilt of a head or the slight glint in the eye that can say so many things, and not necessarily just one specific thing, but leave you guessing as to, oh well, it could be this or it could be that. And it's just, dude is awesome, and the character is written so well. You know, when you get to who he is as a man at the end of his journey at this series, he's a villain. Simple as. He is a villain. You would not want this guy as a friend. But it's tragic. It's tragic. Every time you start this series again, you know, if you watch this series through, every time you go back to the beginning, you go, oh, crap. This guy is like, he's this close to being a genuine brother to Clark. To being a genuinely good, decent person. And you watch this series, and at every turn, things just keep pulling him into the darkness. And it's a tragedy. His story is a tragedy. And I just think it's so brilliantly written, it's so brilliantly acted, and it's so brilliantly propped up with the likes of John Glover as Lionel. It's just... It's a perfect representation, TV representation of a comic book character. And I don't care what anyone says, there'll never be a better Lex Luthor. I just don't think there will be.
So one thing with Lex that I loved is how much it mirrored Clark's journey. They were both on a journey. And, just that last scene showed that they have a destiny, but on different sides. And as was said even during the series, the road to darkness is a journey, not a light switch. And a lot of times you see villains after they've already been a villain, and you don't really trying to understand their backstory. Whereas Lex, we got to see every step of the way how he got there.
Yeah.
And we got to see him struggle with it. And at times he wanted to, during season 7, even that far along, he took a step back and was like, well, maybe I want to go towards the light. And that part of the reason why he hates Clark is because it reminds him that he ultimately, what he has turned into and what, could have been.
Yeah.
And it's a tragic story, but it's a very interesting story. And in the beginning he really seems pretty genuine. He still has those attributes where you can see how he's going to lead there, which I think was brilliant, the way they put those in there. And where I think that personally that even if Clark had told him his secret, he still would have fallen down this road. It just was part of his training and nature that he was fighting against. As much as Clark was fighting his destiny, Lex was fighting his destiny in the beginning as well, but it was what was part of him. And it made Clark a more interesting character, to see him and their friendship, and wondering, when their friendship was tragic. I mean, the whole character, and I love Lex. I mean, he's just such an interesting character.
Especially when you factor all the Julian stuff in there. Just like that's
so sad.
That's such a brilliant, because obviously that didn't come from the comics, from what I gather. That was like that was brought in as part of the show, and it really did add so much to the character and why, the roads that he took. But one of the questions that I've heard a lot of Smallville fans ask is, what's the point where Lex, what's the point of no return? Where's the moment where Lex becomes the Lex we know from the comic books? And the fact is, there isn't. You can't pinpoint that moment. It's not there, because like you said, it's a journey. If you show somebody a season 1 episode and then show that same person, Lex, pushing his father out the window, it's two vast extremes. And if it was a movie, if this was like a villain in a movie, there would be one big event that would happen in their life, and then boom, they're a villain. And it's like, all right, great, it's a movie, now we have our justification for why they're a villain. That's great. But this is such a long journey that as you go along with Lex, and you feel every punch, every kick, every dragging down beneath the soil, it's like you get to a point where he's become dark, he's become villainous, and you suddenly realise, or you suddenly ask yourself, how did this happen? How did we get to this point? And it's like it's just you can't. There's no light switch moment. There is no point where he said, there you go, that's it, there's no going back. It's been built into his DNA because of his parenting, because of who his father is. And
he lost his mother, and his mother also had her own mental problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just it is the ultimate Shakespearean tragedy. But yeah,
he also thinks, he's going to be the saviour, because him doing all this experimentation, it's protecting Earth and humanity from aliens. So he's got that belief that he's still doing some good, even though, ultimately he's not.
You know what? I think that every person thinks that they are, even the most evil real people, thinks that they are doing it for some good that they've wrapped into their mind.
Well, everyone's the hero of their own story.
Psychosis, some people have psychosis, but the ultimately people think, like Lex, that he's doing it for the greater good. He's doing, it's worth the sacrifice, and he is the one that's powerful enough to make those decisions. He's doing the hard work that needs to be done. And what I love about the line in the finale where Clark's like, I'm always going to be there to stop you, and Lex says, I count on it. Like, he wants to bring it to that point. He wants to stretch things as far as he can, but he's almost thankful to have Clark be there to step in when things go too far, which I thought was a very interesting line in the show. And and that's what I really like about a TV series versus a movie. In a movie, you only have a short amount of time to say a story. But we got to see this character grow and change over how many hours of television. So I think that makes for a very interesting villain story.
Yeah.
The point where I know he's got there, and the clip that sums it up, is at the end of Subterranean, which I never watched, only the end. Where he's walking down the corridor and there's all the arms reaching out, and he's sort of like got that look on the face, song playing, and he's got there.
Yeah. But even in that moment, you find yourself asking, how did we get here? It's like, I get that we're here now, but how the hell did we get here? You start thinking about who he was in season 1, and you're like, oh man.
Then you have an episode like Nemesis where he goes back and he saves Clark. I mean, so again, it's not this. It's also not a straight line to the journey for either character, for anyone in life. They like, you think of success, it's like this. No, that's not the way it is. It's life really goes like you take a couple steps back, forward, a couple steps back. It's so
zigzag.
I mean, even Clark thought that Lex had deserted him when they were, in Nemesis, and he comes back and, rescues him.
Yeah. Well, I think all the audience did too.
Yeah.
In that moment, the way they shot it and everything, and I thought, something else is going to come save Clark, because I knew Clark wasn't going to die. So, but then Lex, you look up and it's Lex there, and like, oh wow. And then the two of them help each other climb that ladder, and it's just such an amazing episode. I love it. Yeah. Those two.
Okay.
Compelling.
So, on the Smallville fans Facebook group, I did ask the same question as before, only with villains. I asked people if what are their top 5 villains. You only got 3 answers for this one, which surprises me. I thought more people would have been up for answering what their favourite villains were over the heroes, but turns out not to be the case. Tyler Warmack says Lex Luthor, Lionel Luthor, General Zod, Bizarro, and Doomsday. Luis Trevino, Lex, Brainiac, Clark Luthor, Lionel, and Zod. Lex, this is Julia Hart. She says Lex, Lionel, Brainiac. They're my top 3. Clark Luthor. I need to watch season 10 again. And Zod. Sorry, Julia, you're out.
Well, maybe it's Bryan. That's like 5. Although I guess I didn't crack my top 5. That's only because of Bizarro. Against. So maybe you need to watch more of season 9.
I've seen season 9 at least a couple of times, and
That's
I just
not enough.
I can't warm to the guy. I really can't. He annoys me. His face just annoys me. Right. Okay. So
So we have some. This is today's special, right? Because today is the 10-year anniversary of the finale, and if you notice that we already included some great finale clips, we have a couple more because we really want to show our appreciation for the finale today.
Okay. Should I just run them all off?
We can run one at a time, talk about it.
Okay. Let's. I don't know what order these are in, so I'm just going to hit them.
I think that was the best flying part in the finale.
Lionel looked ill in that. She said.
No, I love that. It was very interesting how he sold his soul to the devil essentially, and then he's taken over by Doomsday. And Clark not only learned to fly, but he learned to fly efficiently, very quickly. Love that.
Yeah.
Taken over by Darkseid.
To the dark side, did it?
Yeah. Did I say Doomsday? Sorry.
You said Doomsday, yeah.
You made that right.
My bad. It was because we were talking about Doomsday earlier. But yes, Darkseid.
Just before we get any actually comments in the comments, So I'll save you from that one. Yeah. Next up.
Into me.
It's too late. Clark already did that.
Well, I mean, this is great for both those characters because first you have Tess, right, who's saying that Clark brought her back to the light and redeemed her, and she's doing this final act for Clark and her death. And then it was very interesting again where you have Lex saying, "I'm saving you from becoming me." So that just shows that he is actually not too happy with who he has become.
Yep.
Great men. Because of each other.
And there was...
Great moment.
There was another one that went with that, wasn't there?
Oh, we had to cut it, unfortunately.
Ah, right. Okay. But, yep.
Great scene. It was so great to get Rosie back for this last episode, and that was, I love that he was one of the people that inspired him to be able to do the amazing feats that he did. And it just gives you the whole balance between light and dark, right?
They're the flip side of the same coin, aren't they? It's like the whole Batman Joker thing, but it's almost like they feed each other to be
they make each other greater.
You complete me.
So it's amazing, right?
Maybe Clark Kent can't save us, but we know who can.
Oh, great.
Iconic moment right here. Yeah, very short clip, that one, but just it's just the music, the John Williams music is like, come on, one more time. Yeah, it's just it's like it was such a Christopher Reeve kind of, John Williams score. It was just, like we waited 10 years for that. It lasted all of 2 seconds. Thanks, Tom Welling, and your stupid contractual obligations. It's just anyway.
So iconic though, and it's the most we got to see him in the suit, so it's kind of like, oh.
And then we get the credits, and then it's over.
Yeah.
But what a great ending! I mean, if really is that is the best moment to end.
I wonder how many ties and pairs of glasses he goes through with just flinging them.
Well, buttons. I think, which by the way, if you look carefully, is it in Booster? It's in one of the episodes in season 10, and he opens his shirt. I believe it's the end of Booster. It's the final scene with Clark and Lois. That you could see a button pop off.
You've always believed in me, and I believe in you. And when you believe in someone, it's not for a minute, or just for now. It's forever.
I see a wedding on Smallville. I expect Doomsday to come in and wreck the place.
Well, Darkseid kind of did. But at least they got through the vows. But what? I mean, just such an amazing scene, and I love those vows. It's incredible and embodies what Lois and Clark are.
Well, with, doing that to the ring. If she hadn't have caught on to that, then who knows where we'd have ended up.
Weddings just don't have a good track record, do they, in this show? Lana and Lex's. It's just like... they just don't have a good track record.
So the first one, Lex was basically brainwashed into it, and then Black Widow situation. The second one was also a Black Widow situation.
Yeah.
And you had Lex and Lana, where Lana was blackmailed into it.
and then Lex killed someone on the day of the wedding as well.
And then Chloe's wedding was crashed by Doomsday. And then Lois and Clark's wedding was crashed by Darkseid.
It's all good. Final clip here.
Always hold on to Smallville.
That's right. Always hold on to Smallville.
Yeah. It's a line of dialogue that never really kind of made sense in any kind of believable way. That I couldn't imagine that he would say always hold on to Smallville, but
I think that it embodied so much though, Bryan, because he's saying don't forget where you came from.
Yes. But the line would most likely be always hold on to your time in Smallville, not always hold on to Smallville. It's just it would make more sense for him to say always hold on to your time in Smallville. It's what made you who you are. But
well, it's
whatever.
Kind of like Jarrell says that.
Yeah, we needed a line that we could stick on a T-shirt or become the title of a podcast. Whatever. So, fair enough. We get what it means, but I just think dialogue-wise, it doesn't really work. But hey ho, there you go. It's still a classic moment. Every Smallville fan loves that moment.
Yes.
So there you go. Again, as I stated before with the heroes, do let us know in the comments section what your top 5 villains are. Mercenary X84 has left his down there. He said Clark, Luthor, Zod, Brainiac, Lionel, then Lex. He shares my top 3, so that's good. Loses a brownie point for putting Zod in there, but whatever. We can't all be perfect.
So you have to go watch Luthor and Kent tonight, Bryan, or tomorrow. I know
I have a feeling that he probably would be one of my top ones, to be honest. It's just whatever. Anyway, thank you.
She didn't make very many lists. I'm surprised.
She didn't, but I explained the complication there as to why she didn't make my list. And the complication being that actually she should be on both of my lists. She should be on both hero and villain lists. I love Tess Mercer as a character. I honestly do. If this were just let's just do straight up top 10 characters, regardless of whether they fit specifically into hero or specifically into villain, Tess Mercer is making that top 10. I can promise you. So, yeah. On that note,
we're
been an absolute. We're well past. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure as usual. Thank you for watching. For those that joined us in the live stream, if you're watching this after the fact, thank you for watching it after the fact. But like I say, do leave your top 5s in the comments. Maybe let us know your reasons for them as well. We're always happy to hear why you love this show so much. That's why we're here talking about it. So yeah,
we love to share our love for Smallville, so
we do.
let us
Always
know.
hold on to Smallville. Always hold on to your time watching Smallville.
Yes.
Okay.
And watching the Wall of Weird podcast.
Adios.